Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And we're honored to kick it off with the legend himself, Ian Ayre. He's the CEO of Nashville Soccer Club, Nashville SC. Ian, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Enjoying this fine spring weather in Nashville.
Well, you've got a lot going on. You have an upcoming season to talk about and a lot of excitement around that. Let's start with a little bit of your history because you've had soccer in your blood for a long time, and bringing that obviously to Nashville is really powerful. But give us a little bit of your personal backstory.
Sure. So I guess my soccer backstory goes back to being a kid. I grew up in Liverpool, England, which is a real hotbed of football or soccer. Supported the team there for almost 50-something years now, and you know, my journey is quite incredible, really. I went through all sorts of different industry type roles in different businesses. And then in 1999, found myself with an opportunity to work in soccer at a smaller team in the league below the Premier League at Huddersfield Town, where I became a shareholder and a CEO there. And then moved around the sports industry and ultimately ended up running my hometown team of Liverpool for 10 years, which is incredible. I mean, if you do what I do, that's kind of the top of the game, and particularly for your hometown team. And then, you know, stepped down from there in 2017, did some consulting work in Munich for one of the teams there. And then, you know, as life does, you know, got that one of those incredible phone calls from somebody who invited me to come meet with John Ingram here in Nashville. And as they say, the rest is history. And I've been here just about 3 years in a month or so, and you know, incredible journey, and you know, still wake up every day excited and enjoying what we're doing here at Nashville Soccer Club.
Talk about the business when you look at, especially, you know, creating something special. Talk about the business side of the players, the ticket sales, obviously the pandemic effect. I mean, talk about it from your vantage point of building this business enterprise.
Yeah, it's probably, you know, as fans or supporters, we'd obviously like to think that it's just all about having the best team on the field, but it's really like it's kind of like a virtuous circle of, you know, you need to create the right revenue streams to create the investment in the first place. Now, at the start of a journey for a new franchise like Nashville, that investment comes from an individual. You know, in our case, John Ingram and other investors. But as that evolves, of course, you have to. He's not just going to write a check every year to keep us all in employment. So you have to create. You have to start with a brand and an entity and an infrastructure. And then you have to create real reasons why people will want to support this club. And that comes with supporters, so tickets and merchandise and all those great things. And you know, sponsors and partners and partnerships that believe in the club and where it's going to go and believe in the sport. And then you build all of that. You build the infrastructure. So we're building a new stadium. We're building a practice facility. We've built a youth academy. And then obviously the players. And so recruitment's a huge part. And unlike a lot of US sports, like football, for instance, the difference here is when we look for one individual for one position, we're looking in the entire world of soccer. So it's not a kid in college or a kid in high school that we think is going to, you know, be the number one pick, or it's literally all over the world. Every player in that position in our budget, whatever that might be at a single moment, is in the running. So it's about having the right system, and then you bring that group together, you put them out on the field, and then if you do well, then of course more people come to games and more people want to be a partner, and you have more to invest, and so the virtuous circle continues. And you know, it's I used to work a long time ago in the electronics industry and in manufacturing, and one of the real important lessons I learned there was this kind of everything just has to fall in place at the right time. The components would come in from Japan or wherever. We would put them onto the assembly line and start manufacturing the product. And the trucks were waiting at the end of the assembly line to take them out to customers. And so it went. And if you got any of that wrong, if the parts didn't arrive, the line shut down, and then the customer didn't get, and any part of it goes wrong. And that's kind of the same in soccer. People focus on how you do on the field, but it's kind of that you've got to keep bringing new investors. You've got to keep and engage and make fans feel important and feel welcome. And you've got to get that right. You've got to get the relationship with your partners right, and you've got to continually recruit, because like everything, we all get older, and a player who could be the best player in your team is going to expire just in terms of his playing time. And you have to know that you're either finding that new player or growing that player through your own youth system. And, it's just that virtuous circle. But it's so, so important to get all of the individual parts right and correct.
For those who don't know soccer as well, let's start with the players. Give us the number of players on the roster. And as you mentioned, it's not traditional. You're looking globally. So talk about things like, is there a draft? How do you find the players? How do you negotiate salary? Give us a little bit of the science of the players and building your team from the players' perspective.
Sure. So our roster is 30 players, give or take. In a game, we have 11 players on the field at one time, and we can have, unlike football, in soccer, if you bring on a substitute, that person's you can take that person off, but you can't put anyone back on who's come off. They're probably the fundamental differences there. In terms of recruitment, as you said, we're fishing in a global pond of talent, and it's interesting because, as I said, I grew up in Europe, and in those early days of being a soccer fan, I would say 80 to 90% of the players were all from England or Great Britain or very close by. Whereas now across the world, you see it really is a global pond for all teams. And what that means is, the traditional way of recruiting players was that you would send one of your coaches or your scouts to go watch a player play 3 or 4 times, and then you'd approach his club and his agent. But of course, that's just impractical now. If we're looking for a central defender and we're looking at, we narrow that down so we use a lot of technology. We use analytics. We buy data from every league in the world that tells us how players are performing in certain categories and age group, and price range and salary level. And we narrow that down almost like a funnel to where we find 5 or 6 players through the process of elimination online that we think fit what we're looking at. And then we instigate the more human part of it. And that just wouldn't be possible without that technology. Otherwise, you really would narrow your focus to a domestic audience. But if you think about the drafts, we have so if you're a new team, as we were last year, there's an expansion draft. There's a draft every year, college draft, if you like. And there's a couple of other sort of drafts similar to football. But I think the fundamental point here is that in the college draft, our equivalent of the college draft, the number 1 pick in MLS in that draft, at 22 or whatever his age is, there could be 1,000 players around the world in that age group or younger, or who are, more proven or better or whatever. So it's still an important feature, and it's still important. And we've been very fortunate, both because of, like everyone, we had some great luck, but also some great work and strategy around that draft last year. And we signed 2 players, a couple of players, one in particular, Alistair Johnson, who came to us through the draft, was really going to be a prospect and end up playing almost every game for us last year. And now has just been chosen to play for the Canadian national team. And then Jack Mayer, who's a similar, in that case, he was our first pick. And I sure will see more and more of him. And I know our coach thinks very highly of him. So it worked for us in terms of the domestic draft, but also we recruited 3 or 4 other players from other parts of the world, as far as Scandinavia to Costa Rica. I think we have 16 nationalities in our squad. So
that's pretty impressive. And especially from a global perspective for Nashville, that's a really cool storyline too. because each one of those players represents their home country and a connection to those countries. And so it creates even more connectivity, which is really exciting. Talk about community engagement, because you mentioned the camps and the work with the youth. And so there's a community connection there as well. Talk about connection to the community and sponsors and corporations and how important that is.
It's hugely important. And I think somebody asked me a question the other day about what was I most proud of in the last 12 months. And obviously we're a soccer club, so we're very proud of the soccer first and foremost, but absolutely second in that line was our work in the community in our inaugural year. And like a lot of organizations, community can mean different things to different people. So for us, it fits into a number of strands. Community in terms of our Nashville community, our Tennessee, being a part of that community is so important. And I've learned, I'm the ultimate sort of newcomer to Nashville in the last few years. And one of the things I learned very early was that, you need to be a good citizen and a good sort of part of the community here to be truly accepted. People are generally very nice, very welcoming, and they kind of expect you to be a part of that. And so it was important for us to set our stall out and be part of that. And, we had one amazing game in February 29th last year, which was our opening game, and 60,000 people or so from Nashville and Tennessee show up. And that's the first sign that, wow, the community is behind you. So we have to take note of that and make sure we're respectful of that. And 2-3 days later, we have a tornado in Nashville, and that's devastating for the whole community. But I'm pleased to say that we felt it important to play our part in helping with that and other things through the year, whether it was COVID or other related issues. And I think we had, Christina could probably confirm, but I think we had something like 250 hours of community service that we gave in our first year when we were all kind of locked away and other things. And everyone from, myself through the players, staff, our owners, everybody gets involved, and that's hugely important as well. So that's a big part of our community effort. And then the third piece I would say is, we're building this new stadium in the area of Wedgwood, Houston, in Nashville. And when we designed that stadium, which is going to be incredible, it was really interesting that, I sat with our owners and some other people, the architects, and we were talking. And one of the things that came across was it's a very urban neighborhood. If you know the neighborhood, it's not full of big high-rise buildings, and which there's a place for everywhere, but it's a much more urban sort of feel to it. And so our design and structure and materials were actually purposely designed to fit in that neighborhood. So, I use this phrase that we're building the biggest house in the neighborhood, but we still have to be a good neighbor, right? And the idea and the hope, and it's really coming together, is that when this thing's finished, it looks like it was always part of that. And I think that's important in being a good part of the community. And finally, in that same area, we've made a conscious effort through the construction process, which is give or take about a year old now, with about a year to go. And we've really worked hard to engage the community, whether it's communicating with them when we're doing, if we're going to have 500 cement trucks coming in and out of that road, that's going to be disruptive, and it's unavoidable, but you can at least be a good community servant by informing people and keeping them informed, listening to issues. And so, look, we haven't and we won't always get everything right, but I think we've started in a good way.
So tease us about the upcoming season. So talk about the 2021 season.
Yeah, hugely exciting. I think, it's almost like soccer 2.0 for us. We started that amazing season last year and finished with an incredible outcome, finishing, in the playoffs and getting beaten in the semi-final of our conference playoff by the ultimate winners, Columbus. So hugely proud of what we achieved, hugely proud of that opening day and the big crowd. But of course, then locked away and then came back and did fantastic. But we weren't able to be all we wanted to be. And I think this year we probably get to do half as much as we got to do last year, but not everything. But that's okay. And, we're excited about it. We have enough capacity with the new restrictions to have all of our season ticket holders at games initially, and some single game paying fans, which is fantastic. Still with social distance, but we're hopeful and have a really good dialogue that will evolve. And I think everyone's I know I am, and I work in the sport, but whether it's soccer or football or basketball or hockey or whatever it is, I'm excited about going and watching live sports again in a good environment where I can have a beer and cheer my team and eat some pizza or whatever it is. And I think that we're excited about that more than anything. We've done a lot of work in the off season on our team. We've added to it. We've improved it in the area. We hope in the areas where we felt we needed more firepower up front and pace. And our team, Mike Jacobs, our GM, and his team have done an incredible job there. Our coach Gary Smith's hugely excited about bringing the team back to playing, and they've been down in Florida in preseason, and again that's been challenging for all teams. But we've all learned, I think, whether it's in soccer or in real life, in the rest of the world, we've all learned that we'll have these things get in our way, but we'll just push past them. And we have all our staff back here. Monday was the first day. We've had staff working in kind of pods coming in and out certain days. And Monday was the first day to have the whole team. And personally, I feel hugely energized by that. It's just great to feel that level of normality, whether it's being on the interstate in the morning and almost being glad that traffic is back, which seems insane. But I really feel good about it. I feel good that I can go in a store and there's people in it. I can be on the highway and there's traffic on it. And now I can be in my offices where I've been most of the time, but have other staff here. And I literally cannot wait for our opening game on April 17th. It's also my birthday that day. So it's probably the best birthday present I could get, if I'm honest.
Absolutely. Talk about how the community can help. So obviously sponsorships, season ticket sales, cheering on the team. So how can we help?
I wish I could say that there's lots more our community can do, but I'm hugely humbled by the support we've had, not just, in building up to the first season and the game, but even through those difficult times, the engagement we've had. We've sold 20% more season tickets for 2021 than we sold in 2020, which when you think that you only had one game where all fans could come, that seems ridiculous, but incredible at the same time. Yeah, I think it's all of the above. It's come to games, that there are some tickets available. We, as I say, as we go through the season, we genuinely, and in consultation with Metro Health and CDC and MLS and the Titans, we all feel confident that those numbers will be allowed to improve and the rules will improve. So, come to games, come and enjoy it, be a part of it. We're growing this thing through 2021 to this, I believe, ultimate crescendo in 22 when we open the doors to the new stadium, which is really about a big stake in the ground, I think, for Nashville, probably the next biggest one after that opening day last year, where we're saying, right, this is now our spiritual home for this soccer club in this city and the biggest soccer club in the US at that time. So that's a big statement for Nashville, and Nashville's incredible at making big statements and living up to them. And so anyone who can support us, whether it's businesses, we've been incredible support through the pandemic and going into this year from all our business partners and new partners coming on board all the time. The media have been supportive. So yeah, more of the same, please, and thank you at the same time.
Wrap up with contact information. So where do we go? Website, social media, where would you direct us to be in the loop on the season and all the good that you're doing?
Yeah, we're pretty much NashvilleSC.com or Nashville SC in almost all social platforms. It's a great, they've been, it's incredible to think, I'm 58 next week. So I kind of remember life before social media. But I think in this era of the pandemic and all that we all went through, it's incredible to think how powerful and how difficult those times would have been, even more without, digital and social media. And there are core channels, really. We have so much engagement, and and our digital team did an incredible job of making sure that we kept content relevant and current, and keep people as informed as we could, and keep people engaged. And yeah, come check us out. Our new website launches on Thursday at midnight. We have a website right now, but there's a new format to that coming out. So from Friday morning, I don't expect too many to stay up till midnight, but Friday morning, take a look. It's going to be much more mobile friendly, hopefully very informative, and we'd just love to see people at games more than anything.
Well, definitely wish you and the team great success for the season ahead and beyond, and greatly appreciate all you do for our community and for coming on the show as well. So thank you, Ian.
Thank you, and thanks for your support. Really appreciate it.